Cyberpunk 2077. Cyberpunk 2077 has got to be the most controversial video game of all time, with its record amounts of returns, its huge sales numbers in general, the amount of hate it got, and also its very dedicated fan base. It's something that feels like you either completely despise it or utterly worship it, and it's a very conflicting thing to have. But today, they just announced that the game, in my opinion, is pretty much done. What's up, gamers? DreamcastGuy here. Now, today we're going to be talking about the fact that they just pushed back all of the further development, all content, and the new expansion till 2023, and why fans seem to be incredibly pissed about it. Now, typically I film my videos on a green screen and stuff, but right now, honestly, the weather is fantastic. I've got all my windows open and stuff, so you can see my classic game collection, and also, this is an award I actually won for a pole dancing competition, and maybe I'll tell that story if this video gets 10,000 likes. Also, be sure to subscribe. Okay, so here is the breakdown. This is from the official CD Projekt Red Cyberpunk Twitter account, and it says, as we just mentioned during our investor calls, we are delaying the upcoming expansion for Cyberpunk 2077. Please stay tuned for more details coming later this year. Now, inside this docket, it says, basically, everything that's going on currently at the studio, from top to bottom. Now, to me, I feel like it has a very clear message hidden inside this that I feel like everybody can read loud and clear. Cyberpunk is dead. After so many years of talk and hype and pre-orders and trailers and tiny teases to the gameplay, the project, it seems like they're just completely walking away from it. This is what's currently in production for 2022. Development working on the Cyberpunk expansion, development work of a new Witcher game using Unreal Engine 5, further support for 2077, which probably just means more bug fixes more than anything else. Development work of a next-gen version of Witcher 3 Wild Hunt, which was delayed as well. That's coming out late this year. It was supposed to come out early this year. And development on the Molasses Flood, an unannounced project based on one of our franchises. It's good that they're staying so busy, but the part of this that really strikes my eye is the fact that they just keep talking about the fact that Cyberpunk seems like it's been demoted inside the company. The fact that there's more talk of different Witcher projects, more talk about new spinoffs, like Witcher is on here 5 times, whereas Cyberpunk is on here twice, and one of them is pretty much just promising to fix more bugs. Now, in the same release, they also announced and sort of tried to brag that Cyberpunk has now passed 20 million copies sold, but a lot of people are kind of pointing out the fact that they keep doing these big sales where they're pretty much giving the game away for $5. I think we all understand that even with the next-gen patch, even with the new versions of this that are actually more polished than it was at launch, I don't think Cyberpunk was as profitable as they wanted it to be. I think everybody inside the company and outside the company thought that this could be a 50 million seller, a gigantic release that would actually divide the entire gaming community as to those who had played Cyberpunk and those who had not. I like to call this the Skyrim Effect. Because consider the fact that when Skyrim was first coming out, there was this huge hype bubble where everybody was excited about the game, it seemed good, but then it came out and just completely surpassed expectations. Every single gamer on the planet was lining up to play freaking Elder Scrolls, even if it was the worst version of it. Because, yeah, when Elder Scrolls first came out, freaking Skyrim was very, very glitchy for a very long time. But the actual core gameplay, the core story, the experience was just so fun and so unique, everybody was trying to jump on board. So it makes me think that what they were hoping with Cyberpunk was to replicate that success, that hype, that energy, and honestly, those sales. Everybody's already kind of joined in with the conversation of Cyberpunk and left it behind. The fact that it's now going to be 2 years, over 2 years from launch till the DLC arrives, I think people are downright pissed. I'm actually even seeing replies to this tweet are people just straight up saying, are you going to ever give us New Game Plus? Why the hell is that not an option? Oh my gosh, 3 years for an expansion. You know what? This is just ridiculous. Please add more exteriors and interiors, working train system. There's so much stuff that just needs to make the city feel real. Pretty much everybody is replying with something that makes them sound just annoyed. The original roadmap for Cyberpunk sounds hilarious. Gamers are just pissed, and even if you were initially excited for this game, at this point, it's difficult to stay on that hype train when the wheels have fallen off months and months ago. But also, let's consider the fact that Cyberpunk was also sued. It had a class action lawsuit where basically thousands and thousands of people got together and not only requested refunds, but officially sued them because they said that this is something that was incomplete. It was false advertising. Now, in America, false advertising is a very specific claim. You have to prove that not only was the product bad, that they lied to sell it. Well, they were actually successful in this. This is still something that managed to be finished. I heard this case actually settled for a couple $1 million. And this is just on top of the fact that they also had their stocks fall. At this point, Cyberpunk is probably costing them more than it ever earned them. And I think that the only way they can solve this is much like the way you see Johnny Silverhand here walking away dramatically. I think CD Projekt Red is trying to walk dramatically away from freaking Cyberpunk. While Cyberpunk certainly had a lot of very glaring issues when it first came out, a lot of game-breaking bugs and a lot of stuff that just seemed very obviously incomplete, as it currently stands, I do think that Cyberpunk is mostly fixed. The next-gen patch is very beautiful, the new fog effects and stuff they put in the game look very, very good. It feels like the game is definitely in a better spot than it's ever been, and yet people do not care. Imagine the spot that CD Projekt Red is in. Imagine that you've made this game that is so big, that was so expensive, and everybody either just associates it with being a big old dumpster fire, or they already bought it. At this point, the expansion probably isn't even going to be financially viable. If I had to completely guess, I'm assuming we're going to get one expansion, it's going to be early next year, and it's going to be tiny. I bet everybody who's actually talented, everybody who worked on the best aspects of Cyberpunk, has been drug over to work on the next Witcher game. They're all working on Witcher 4 or something that is going to generate more profit, more revenue. Because right now, I mean, as much as you may love Cyberpunk, as much as you may hate Cyberpunk, we have to admit, the ship has sailed. People are buying the game for under $10. That's not profitable. We're at a point where this game is just dead in the water. In a way, I do sort of pity them because the idea of this game just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger. They kept trying to throw out more promises, more incredible freaking ideas. Like, they kept just creating this impossible concept of Cyberpunk that when it eventually came out, people can't possibly live up to that amount of hype. And now the game, even if it had been half as good as they promised, or a tenth as good as they promised, it probably would have sold pretty dang good. But now, in a world with cheaper games that are higher quality, Cyberpunk is still just the example of what not to do in a video game. I still think that, seriously, the reason that people are so in love with Elden Ring, part of that is just because it's finally a feature-complete game. Imagine something that's big, 100 hours long, has a real story, has real combat, has so much fun, and still costs $60. We're just entering a different era, and Cyberpunk 2077, despite having a futuristic name, is already living in the past. But what do you think? Give me your thoughts in the comments down below, and please, if you could, like this video and subscribe if you haven't already. But do me the biggest favor of all and keep dreaming. All right, cool. God, it feels so good outside. If you live in Texas, Dallas, Texas, go enjoy some nice cool air because summer is going to boil us all very soon. Look at the dust on my game, by the way. Look. Can you see that dust? Thanks so much for watching that video. If you want to see something else, you can always click this link to see what I put up last, or, subscribe and see what's coming up next. Also, I promise that whatever I do, it'll try not to suck.